Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blissful Living Podcast. It's Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous. And I hope you are having a fabulous day today, particularly at this moment. Because if you're listening to me and you can hear my voice right now, then you are at the right place when it comes to elevating your wellness, wisdom, and wealth. But before I get into the guest for today's show and our topic of the day, trust me, you won't regret being in listening to us today or viewing us today. Okay, so I like to say, find a place to sit, get something to write with, tell your family to give you a few moments, get you something, a beverage. I'm drinking water in one of my favorite cups, and be ready to take notes because the information is going to be transformational if you want to really particularly focus on your wealth and making sure your wealth is in a very good state of being. So while you're doing that, I want to thank our sponsors, Blissful Living for You at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. They are totally into helping you elevate your wellness, wisdom, and wealth, connecting yourself with your divine, healthy, and wealth self so that you can actually live and have the life of your dreams. And they've got some summer programs going on right now. So if I was you, I would go check them out at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. The next sponsor I want to thank is All Day Cable Incorporated. All Day Cable Incorporated is a telecommunications installation company located in Silicon Valley. They've been in business since 1990. They service small, medium, and large companies with regards to their network infrastructure, telecommunications distribution. So they install voice, data, fiber optic cabling, routers, modems, wireless access points, all of the stuff to help you telecommunicate and make that right connection the first time when you connect with your customer. If you're looking for services like that, they're women-owned and they've been in business, like I said, since 1990, then you want to check out alldaykcableinc.com. Okay, so you've had some time to get some paper, and we're going to talk about today's show. And the topic of today's show is dealing with money, time, and balance for a successful life. And I don't know about you, but I know that absolutely has to be a reality and has to be in my life for all things wellness, wisdom, and wealth to flow harmonistically. So let me tell you about our guest. Our guest is named Andy
Semotiuk.
Andy Semotiuk, and he is a U.S. and Canadian immigrations and human rights lawyer based in Toronto, Canada, practicing at the Pace Law Firm, a member of the bars of New York, California, Ontario, and British Columbia. He practiced law in Los Angeles for about 10 years, worked in New York for another 5, and now is practicing law in Toronto. And so let me tell you a little bit more about Andy. He's a former United Nations correspondent in New York and a longtime Forbes contributor whose articles on immigration have been read by over 1 million people. Okay. Powerful, very powerful. He served for 3 years on the tribunal panel of the Canadian Human Rights Commission and is a senior advisor to the Center for Eastern European Democracy. He's a distinguished Toastmaster. He taught at universities in the United States and Canada, and he is the author of 4 books, including The Young Professionals, and remains a leading voice on refugee and human rights issues. So today, like I said, we're talking about dealing with money, time, and balance for a successful life, and one of my favorite topics. Welcome to the show, Andy. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm just delighted to be with you here today, and I'm eager to get into this topic because I love the topic. And
well, I'm eager to tap into your wisdom because I know I like the topic, absolutely love it, and I know the viewers are going to be so intrigued. They should be sitting at the edge of their seats right now, right? And to ask you the first question. But while they're doing that and getting you on the edge of your seat, I want to ask you, Andy, when it comes to dealing with money, time, and balance, how does that fit into the purpose of one's life?
The answer is there are 2 big philosophical questions that everybody has to face in life, pretty much. The philosophers tell us this. The first is, who am I? And the second is, why am I here? And sometimes I talk to young people when I give a seminar or whatever, and I ask, I mention these things, and I ask them a question. I ask them, so what do you think is the purpose of life? What's the purpose of your life? That's a good question, right? That's a tough question to answer.
Yeah.
But it's a good one, right? And they give me all kinds of answers, interesting answers. Some will say, well, it's to love. Another one is, to be everything I can be. Or they'll say, to treat people fairly and leave a legacy, and, things like that. And those are all great answers, great answers. It's funny that we should be talking about this. I was in church the other day, and I'm not preaching. I don't want to preach to you, but the priest at the church where I was, he got on this theme, and my ears perked up because I talk about it all the time. He says, well, what's the purpose of life, right? And he says it's to know God. And then he's talking about, broader knowing God, not religious knowing God, but being kind, being generous, respecting nature, that kind of knowing God, and
Right.
knowing his, son on earth, etc. And I thought, wow, that's not usually something I've come across. But I've come up with a part of the answer to that question, which is what we want to talk about, and what you're asking about is, I think a really important part of answering that question is to find your unique ability and put it into the service of others.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think, I think
Can you say that one more time?
To find your unique ability. Now, if you're religious, you can say your God-given unique ability and put it into the service of others, or universally given, whatever you want. But your unique ability and put it into the service of others. Now, unique ability, what is that? Or, how do you describe that? Well, it's a fact that we're all unique. Let's take you and me, for example.
Hey, Andy, I'm sorry to interrupt. We got to take a commercial break
Sure.
right now. But we'll be right back, you all, to the Blissful Living Podcast, and we're going to dive more into today's topic. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, and welcome back to the Blissful Living Podcast. It's Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson here with Andy, and we're talking about a very unique and interesting topic, dealing with money, time, and balance for a successful life. And so I know, Andy, we had got into a little bit of the dialogue with regards to the purpose of life. Now, what I want to ask you with regards to that, what are two great philosophical questions that everyone needs to answer really for themselves? And I think we were getting into that before the break. What is your unique ability? And
yeah, I was just going to go on that, if you'll allow me.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So, are you unique? Really? Are you unique? Or are you just like everybody else? Well, let me point out why you are unique. Just take you and me. Rochel, you were born and grew up somewhere else. Somewhere, like I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. You were born somewhere else, right?
Yeah,
you went to your schools. I went
Yeah.
to my schools. You had your friends. I had my friends. You traveled wherever you did in life. I traveled where. In that sense, we're unique. We're all unique. Your existence is an accumulation of your experiences, what you've learned, the people you've met, the highs and lows of your life. But unique ability is something a little more defined than just experiences. And I'll illustrate it with one example. There was a guy named Carl Wallenda, and he was a tightrope walker, one of the greatest in the world. He walked across a tightrope, and in fact, he died doing that. He died in San Juan, Puerto Rico, on a tightrope, walking from one building to another. He slipped and died. But before he died, reporters asked him, "Well, why do you walk the tightrope? Why would you do that?" And he answered in this way. He said, "All of my life is either a prelude to or a postscript after walking the tightrope. I only really live when I'm walking that tightrope."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. I can relate to that. I know a lot of people out there listening and watching us can probably relate to something that you've done, and you're relating to, how it is before and after.
Yeah.
And it really gives you a zest for life that is, I like to say, your own unique experience, right? I mean,
Perfect.
yeah,
You're tuned right in there.
yeah. So I,
Uh,
I mean, I think that is very eye-opening for some people, because they probably just have discounted it, didn't think, oh, that's just what I do. You know what I mean? But that's what you just do is something that is your unique ability. No
well,
one can. Yeah.
there's something to be said about exploring what is your unique ability, and to ask the question, what would you risk your entire life to do because you love it so much, like that Walenda guy? And like I read some biographies. One of my favorite entertainers was Elvis Presley. I took an interest in his life, and he said in his biography, he said, "I only live on stage. I really love to perform. That's when I'm really alive." And there are others in the field of sports. For example, Arthur Ashe, the tennis
Mhm.
player, said, he loved being in the zone. They call it being in the zone, when
Yeah.
everything's just going right for you. You're hitting that ball
Mhm.
exactly right. And there's a guy named Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, I think is his name. He's a professor. Not sure if he's still alive or not, but he was a professor in Claremont University out in California, who
Uh-huh.
wrote a book called Flow. And in that book,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
you know about
Okay.
that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
He talked about unique ability in the sense that he said people, when they're doing what they should be doing, what God, I don't know if you want to call it God or the universe or whatever, is calling on you to do, uh, you're in flow. And the reason you're in flow is because you've got passion for what you're doing.
Right.
And take as an example, maybe it's collecting stamps or something. And if you're
Right.
involved in that, time flies.
Yeah.
You might be involved. You think it's, like 10, 15 minutes. You look at the clock and you've been there for 2.5 hours,
Right.
right? That kind of a
Wow.
scenario.
It's super interesting and very unique, because I've had experiences like what you're describing, where for one, it was super easy for me um, to, I was able to give a compassion doing it that I may have not given in any area of my life.
Right.
Three, I learned in the experience, right? And I began to tune into my unique gift. When it basically is when I was working as an ER trauma nurse, I began to tune into my unique gift of truly connecting with the patient, no matter what they were, what the
Oh,
situation was. And so, and yeah, time would go by like that. But of course, when you're doing ER trauma, it
yeah.
does go by. Okay, before we come back from the break, and before we go into the break, I want to ask this. A lot of people in the past, as well as in today's age, always wants to know how can they make more money, or how can they find more time or
Right.
balance.
Right.
So what I want to ask you when we come back from the break is basically first how people can make more money, and then how they can make more time
Sure.
while they're making more money. So you all will be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast with Andy here, and just give us a few moments, take a sip of water, and before you know it, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome back to the Blissful Living Podcast. It's the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, here with Andy. And before we went to the break, I asked Andy the two questions of how can we make more money? And then the other age-old mystery, how can I find more time in my life? So Andy, what are your thoughts about that? Are those
To
questions?
make more, I'll be quick. I'm going to give it to you right now. The whole answer to all three questions: time, money, time, and balance. Time, money first. To make more money, be and work in your unique ability. And
Ooh.
that means it's the place where you have passion. It's the place where you're prepared to walk on a tightrope and die if you fall off because you love it so much. And the reason why you're going to make money there is because you're the best in that world. That's your unique ability. You can't give any better to the world. And the world wants the best from you, from every one of you and me. They don't want second best, they want the best. So
Right.
when you're giving the best, there's no competition. It's your unique ability. You're not competing with someone else. You're competing with yourself. That's why you're going to make money there. But you have to line up your unique ability, line it up with what the world wants. You may think your unique ability is talking, for example, giving speeches. That's what I thought for many years. I went to Toastmasters for 35 years thinking, that's what I'm going to be. That's my unique ability. But the world said, no, 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 Andy. Andy Semotiuk, no, no, no. Your unique ability at the moment, at least, what we want from you is to write. We want you to be a writer. And I ended up writing, and I have been for the last 10 years, for example, writing for Forbes and so on. I publish books. But I believe this is a place of my unique ability too. I believe talking and presenting is my unique ability. So find your unique ability and put it in the service of others, meaning you'll make money from it. It doesn't mean put it out there for free. Well, if you put it out for free, that's good also, but you can make money that way. Now let's talk about time. How can you make more of your time? I was looking just before, not licking, but looking just before the program started for my tape measure, which is back there somewhere in my desk, and I couldn't find it.
Mhm.
I wanted to pull it out and show it to you now, like in the program. But if I had it and I pulled it out in front of me here on my table, and I asked you, how long do you think you're going to live? What answer would you give me?
110.
Well, that's a hopeful answer. But the real answer is somewhere around 80 years. Like that, at least that's in
Right.
Canada. I'm not sure. I think it's 82 for women in Canada.
Yes.
Expected
Yeah. Life
life
expectancy.
expectancy. It might be more or less in the United States, but roughly, let's say it's 80
Yeah,
years.
it's probably around that. Yeah, definitely more women than men. I
Okay.
mean, women live longer than the guys.
Okay. So let's take out this tape measure and say 1 inch equals 1 year. So we pull out 80 inches, tape measure, 80 inches. That's how long you're going to live. But if I asked you, okay, now where are you right now? Where do put your finger on the inch that you're in right now? Well, if you asked me that question, I would point close to the end of the 80 years, much closer there than the beginning, which is disturbing. But that puts things into focus.
Right.
It says to me, hey, pal, you got to put in everything you can into the remaining part of your life. If you want something out of life, you got to get it now because the time is running out. So how do you get it out? Now. The answer is the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule is 20% of what is 20% of your effort will give you 80% of the results you want. I can get into that in more detail, but the basic gist is if you want, 20% of the people in my office make 80% of the money here.
Right. Okay.
20% of people in your club do 80% of the work.
Right. Yeah.
20% of your, let's say, school are the most productive 80% that are there, whatever it is, right?
Right.
So apply that principle to your life. And the way you can apply it is by the shorthand method. The shorthand method is 4 or 5 things make the greatest difference in any problem you're facing. So let's take an example. Let's say you're the prime minister or the president of Ukraine right now. It's being bombed by Russia. It's sinking. I hope not sinking, but it's in
Yeah.
start. Okay. Let's say you're the president. So you get together with all your people and you say, we're in tough shape. What do we do? So you list what can we do? Well, fight the war. There's healthcare. There's education. There's, all climate change, all the problems. You list them. And the key question is, what 4 or 5 problems should we dedicate 80% of our time to? Because those 4 or 5 problems will give us 80% of the results we want to get. And you devote 80% of your time to those 4 or 5 problems, and the rest you give 20% of your time to. So that's time. And now I'm going to deal with balance. And balance, in the case of balance, what you got to ask yourself is balance according to what standard?
Hold on, Andy. We have to take our last commercial break. Hold on to that. Balance. The word is balance. We'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast in just a few moments. Hold on tight to your seats. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to the Blissful Living Podcast. Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson with Andy here, and we were going into balance. So go ahead, Andy, please continue.
All right, balance. Balance according to what values? And values are subjective. I can't tell you what your values are. Only you can say what your values are. There are some universal values, in my opinion. Truth might be a universal value, for example. But generally, values are subjective. But some of the values that are often cited are things like health, physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, values such as that, or, family, dedicating your time to your family, your work balance, and so on. So if you identify what your values are, let's just take these ones that I listed, and you imagine a pizza pie. And each one of those is a slice of the pizza, right? So what you do is let's take the health, the physical health, okay?
Yep.
You ask yourself, I ask you, for example, I say, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being catastrophic, 10 being fantastic, where are you at this moment on that value scale? And you might answer, well, I'm at 7 or 8. Right? Mm-hmm. So we put that down. And imagine a bicycle tire with spokes reaching out, and each spoke being one of these measurement methods. And the first one was 8. I take the second spoke and we ask, okay, what about your mental health? Where are you in your mental health? And you might say, well, I'm at 10. Okay. And what about your, emotional? And I'm at 6 or whatever it is. And you go around the circle like that, marking the spots.
Right.
And then you take a pencil and you draw a line connecting those circles around the wheel. Now, if you're in balance, that wheel is going to be circular. It's going to be a circle. But if you're not in balance, you're going to be a flat tire.
Right.
Now, you can be out of balance for a while. For example, Van Gogh was out of balance, but he was a genius. He painted all these paintings, but he had to rely on his brother to support him because he couldn't do anything. He didn't support himself.
Right.
So he was out of balance, but he was a genius. So he made up with it, I guess, by being a genius. I was out of balance when I wrote my bar exams. I could not be, a social and go out to movies and stuff like
Right.
that with friends and all that. So I had to pay attention, study to pass the bar exams. So you can be out of balance for a while, knowing full well you'll go back into balance when
Mhm.
you've achieved a specific goal. That's okay. But if your life is one big flat tire, you're in trouble. And you
Yeah.
got to get yourself off the mat and up on your feet again. So that's
Wow.
balance.
I love it. I mean, thank you for the explanations and the example, because I think if someone's driving or just listening to us, not watching us, the video, but just listening to us, the visualization gives them more of a reality in their mind,
Right.
because it's right there. You can imagine a tire and its spokes and the balance between the tire. And if it's not in balance, you can't, you're not going anywhere quickly. So, um, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let me see if we have time for one more question. Yes, we do. And very good conversation. I love it. Okay.
Thank you.
So quickly, Andy, can you tell us what are the 7 keys to a successful life?
Okay. 7 keys to a successful life. Number 1. These are easy to say, hard to do, by the way. Number 1, come on time. Number 2, say what you mean. Number 3, keep your promises. Number 4, finish what you start.
Mhm.
Number 5, be kind. Number 6, actions speak louder than words.
Yes.
And number 7, be thankful for what you have in your life.
Oh my goodness. We are at our time, but thank you so much, Andy. What a beautiful way to end the show today, and very informative. I'm, as you were saying, I'm relating, like, yep, I got that. But just, sometimes we forget, and sometimes we don't know. We hear all kinds of things, but you summed it up so nicely in all those areas for us today. So I want to thank you so much for being a
My
guest on
pleasure.
the
My
podcast. We'll have to find out more where we can get in contact with you, and it'll be in the show notes, you all. So
pleasure.
don't worry about that. I want to thank all of you. As I say, please subscribe to the show, share it with everyone you love and care about. This is the kind of information that I talk about when I'm talking about wellness, wisdom, and wealth, that we can incorporate into our lives and have and live the lives of our dreams, and that, basically the divine put us here to do. We all have a purpose. And Andy just shared so beautifully with how we can tap in and find our unique abilities. And so thank you, and share the show and subscribe to it. Thank our sponsors, Blissful Living for You at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com, as well as All Day Cable Inc. at alldaycableinc.com. Again, thank you so much, Andy. Thank you all for your time. And until next time, I'm wishing you peace to your mind, wellness to your body, and tranquility to your spirit. Go off and have a fabulous rest of your day. Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson saying goodbye for now.